There is a universal idea about having worked really hard at something, only to have the end result be upsetting. Perhaps it ended in catastrophic failure, or maybe it's more of a subtle near miss from what you wanted, cementing you into mediocrity but leaving you feeling a bit less than mediocre. The only thing more frustrating than this failure is the realization that the effort, the work that you had put in, might have been genuine. One is left with the horrifying certainty that your best isn't enough. You look to those around you for some kind of comfort or solace, hoping to find a connection with that one friend of yours that you've seen never break a sweat. But instead, you found out they aced it. I hardly studied. That interview was a breeze. I spent the last weekend partying instead of preparing. To your surprise, those at the top don't put in anywhere near as much effort as you had. Maybe hardly any effort at all. It's as if you were sold a lie of hard work, a sucker for believing the world was built on meritocracy. In my Latin class back in high school, I was taught for the first time this idea of the fixed and growth mindsets. If you aren't familiar with it, the mindsets are a set of beliefs you might have about the learning process, though they can be applied to nearly anything you attempt to do. A fixed mindset is the collection of beliefs that tell you that traits and skills are stable and unchanging. You're either good at this or you aren't. You're incapable of improving because there's a limit to your abilities. A growth mindset is holding the set of beliefs that says that dedication and hard work will be able to change your starting point. Raw talent isn't a ceiling, rather it is instead a starting point. The problem is that many times the fixed mindset can be helpful. If you're called gifted, oftentimes you'll outperform based on just the title alone. A false sense of confidence turns into real confidence over time. There was this study done in children where they worked on letting a kid solve a puzzle. The group of kids that spent the longest on the puzzle were the ones that were told that they were hardworking. Them believing that they were just good at working hard ended up growing and accomplishing it. It's an example of how our beliefs change how we perform. The explanation for why this theory works is that it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Believing that you can learn and grow and change leads your brain to make the connections that reinforce its ability to learn and grow and change. So, I tried it. My Latin teacher sold it to me well. If I just changed my thinking from, I'm bad at Latin compared to these other kids to, I'm gonna put in my work and do well, I might be able to pass the class. I tried, practiced my conjugations, flashcarded vocab words, and took practice tests. The teacher saw my effort and would compliment me on my adoption of my mindset. To help, she put me next to the smartest students in the class, hoping that they would be able to guide me. The teacher liked me and believed in me, and for a while, I did too. I thought I could genuinely succeed with how much work I was putting in. I found out, test after test, that I simply couldn't compete. What ticked me off most is that if the growth mindset were true, then why is it only built and marketed towards people who don't reach it, like me? Why is the smartest student in the class sitting next to me, and when I ask him for help on how to study for these tests and do well, why does he say that he hardly studied, or didn't put in any effort, or didn't try? I'm in the same class as him, doing 10 times as much work, and it's so frustrating that I can't accomplish anything. The self-loathing I had seemed to be the only thing that ended up growing from the growth mindset. Maybe the fixed and growth mindsets are simply paths that come with their own flaws. A fixed mindset can definitely propel you forward. The positive labels can help form our identity and lead us towards paths that we choose because we had the label in the first place. These same labels can also limit the paths that we take, limit the risks and chances that are inherent to what we do in life. A growth mindset can help us take those risks and chances that we might miss out on too, and on the off chance that it works, leads us to feel proud about overcoming an obstacle. If I ever did end up doing well on a Latin test, I guarantee you I would have felt better than the smart kid from earlier who barely tried and got the same score. But because it requires time and effort, it sometimes doesn't always pay off, and we might end up in a worse position because we didn't focus on the talents we already had. So, should I really care about the effort I put into things in the first place? I'm not some coal furnace dying out when there's nothing left to burn. I'm a person whose worth isn't attached solely to my effort or output. You and I have inherent worth in our souls, qualities and values and thoughts that no one can take away from us. But I think we tend to forget that because of how everything around us seems to be structured. No test, internship, job application, or admissions officer could really determine a fraction of what you're worth, because the value that falls in humans isn't measurable by their standards. So, how should we think about effort? One of the wisest things I've ever been told by someone who is older than me is that life is sort of like this game of Jeopardy. You can prepare for Jeopardy. There are ways to grind out random trivia, keep up with pop culture and news, read almanacs for fun, but at the end of the day, the questions are chosen at random, and it's only through sheer luck that you get a question that you might have prepared for. Does preparing help? Of course it does, because the outcome is just luck that we try and make happen. There is merit to trying, there is no merit to comparison. It's better to accept that there are 1,000 things that we can't control, and maybe a couple dozen things we can. If we endure failures with a sort of acceptance of the chaos of life, and feel gratitude to the externalities that ended up leading us to success, I think we all might be a little more satisfied with every possible outcome, and turn out okay in the end. So, with our best foot forward, I'll do my best to figure myself out, and I hope you can too.